don't need their approval. You never did. The only approval that you need is your own. Everyone else's approval is just bonus points, gold star stickers that we don't really need. Sometimes we want them, but we don't really need them. But somewhere, someone taught you to dim your light, that you need to measure your worth to other people's opinions, and to hold back your own opinions because of that. So growing up, I was told to think outside the box. Some people told me that with love, like my mom in the back, but other people said it so carelessly. And for me, I would get so irritated, even when my mom told me, and I was a teenager, so teenagers are just filled with rage anyway. And I could never figure out why I was so mad about it. I didn't ever tell her I was mad about it until I was an adult. And then I told her, and then she was surprised. So there's that. But I figured out as an adult, the reason why I was so mad being told to think outside the box is, one, that I'm kind of like Dr. Strange and I can think about all the options that are coming up. That's a whole other thing. The other thing is because I didn't feel like I was in a box. I felt like I was in a cage. A cage that was built from other people's opinions, other people's words, their fears, their lies, and traditions that were passed down to me and made me think that I needed to be who they told me to be, how they told me to look, how they told me to think. And so I wasn't in a box, I was in a cage. And if I trip over one of these cages, I'm gonna blame Tia. There's only one. Oh, I might trip on that one. That's fine. So today, I want to take you through some glimpses of my life that taught me to shrink, and then I'm going to take you through the way that I remembered who the hell I am. And that's what we're going to do this morning together. So the first moment was in middle school. Picture me a little bit shorter, but I really didn't grow much after that, with black nail polish, not pink, skirts, constantly wearing skirts for some reason. I don't know. Mom, do you remember that? Yeah. There's this one skirt that I specifically remember. It was long and it was like velvety and it had like a little cut on the side. Do you remember that skirt? Yeah, I wore that a lot. So I had my black nails, my velvety skirts, and I really loved anime. Who in here has watched anime, loves anime? Okay, now it's pretty mainstream, but like in middle school, when I was in middle school, it was really weird. People thought I was really weird. I had this binder that I decorated with all of these anime shows that I loved. Here's one of them, Inuyasha. And people would make fun of me so much for this binder. They would walk up to me and they'd be like, oh my gosh, what is that? Inuyasha? And I'm like, no, it's Inuyasha, okay? But in that time, those moments, they taught me that it wasn't safe to be myself. That if I needed to belong, I had to not be me. So I wish that I could tell you that something's changed between middle school and adulthood, but it really didn't. There was a bunch more moments during that time that taught me to shrink continually. But I'm going to skip ahead about 10 years. I was 22 at that point, and I had a decision that I needed to make. Here's me, 22-ish, with Trevor. Look how cute I was. I'm still cute, don't get me wrong. But that's baby face me. So, 22, these were actually our engagement photos. Yeah. I had to dig those up in the Google Drive. Thank goodness I have that. Okay, so I was 22 and I had a decision to make. I really wanted to get a breast augmentation, or that's fancy words for breast reduction. I really wanted to get that because sometime in middle school my boobs just appeared. It was like I woke up and they were like, hello! And I was like, this is too much. And it was way too much. It hurt my back, I had to wear 2 sports bras when I was going to the gym or doing soccer. It was crazy what I had to do, and I'm sure there's some women in this room who feel my pain. And so I was making this decision to do this, and so I asked my family and my friends for their opinions, and that was when I realized that I let other people's opinions of my body mean more to me than my own opinions of my body. And I decided not to do that surgery at that time. So then, a few years later, I'm gonna flip my page because that's my cheat sheet. A few years later, following that lesson of learning that my other people's opinions of my body mattered more than my own, I was in what I thought was a place where I could finally shine again, but the reality that happened was I couldn't. I was actually in a space that made me shrink. And some of you know this. I kind of wrote about it in my book, so we know a little bit about this. But I was in what I thought was my dream job. It's my dream job, and I thought it was going to be the place that I could thrive and I could grow and I could build a career. It was why I got my master's degree. But what ended up happening was I had a boss who took away my glow and my shine and made me shrink. How many of you have had that happen? Too many to count. Well, I guess it wasn't too many. I could have probably counted that. I'm not going to waste. I told you math's not my strong suit. So that is when one specific moment that really stands out for me in that time period, and it was the real straw that was kind of like the final straw where I was really noticing all of this happening, was when my boss pulled me aside, and it was a woman, and she was my mentor. I looked up to her, which makes it even worse. I knew her before I started the job. It was so bad. And she pulled me to the side, and this doesn't seem that bad at first. She pulled me to the side and she said, I'm going to announce something in this meeting and I don't want your opinion about it. And so I was like, oh, okay. And I'm like 24 at this point, not very old, hadn't had very many job experiences, expected this to be like my first real career with trust and building and figuring out who I am. And she told me that. And you know what that meeting was about? A cubicle. It was to tell me that I was moving cubicles closer to her, probably to keep an eye on me, and that I was no longer going to have that cubicle by myself. That it was going to be a shared cubicle. And what that showed me was your opinion doesn't matter here, your voice doesn't matter here. So here it was again, shrinking me. Now when I finally left that job, which I did a few years later, I swore to myself that I would never let myself shrink again. We want this to be a happy story. Yeah, I started my business, and I said, I'm gonna make sure this doesn't happen to other women. So I started my business, and I said, I'm gonna do this my way or the highway. Yeah, that's it. I'm thinking outside the box. I'm not in a cage anymore. And I dyed my hair pink. So I had pink hair for 2 years. I don't have pink hair now because it was a lot of upkeep, and I just don't have time for that with 3 children. But if I could, my hair would still be pink. I give big kudos to Christine, who keeps her hair purple. And she also has multiple children, so big kudos. But I had dyed my hair pink. And this was in the start of my business, so it was around 2020 when I did this. And I was meeting on Zoom with a mentor or someone I looked up to in the business world who was telling me that she, like all the things she did, and then she told me, you should really rethink the pink hair. People aren't gonna take you serious. There it was again. I had left that toxic job. I thought I was done shrinking, and there it was again, shrinking. And so I kept my pink hair because why not? But it definitely sat with me, and I could see it in my branding. That was my first set of branding after that conversation. Look at how pastel it is. It still looks good, don't get me wrong. But look at how pastel that is versus what I look like. I was pastel, I was full of fluffy fake things. I wasn't showing up as myself because I was afraid it wasn't professional enough. Just questioning myself. And then life has a way of testing you even more. Testing you even more. Who can guess what happened? Barb knows. Sonia knows. With one phone call, I became a mom. I was bestowed 3 children, a 2-week-old, a 22-month-old, and a 6-year-old. My husband and I were bestowed them. It wasn't just me. They said, here's this potato with a face in a car seat. Good luck. And his 2 brothers. You're welcome. And so we got these babies. And I'm going to show you something that I haven't showed anybody else because I couldn't up until now, except for close family. Those are my boys. That was a month after we got them. Trevor and I already had family photos set up. We didn't have children when I set those photos up. And then my photographer was like, yeah, let's just do it. And I was like, why not? Who knew that they were going to become a permanent fixture in our family forever? They're stuck with me forever. So, that's them. Aren't they so cute? I was like tearing up when I looked at those pictures. Thank goodness for Google Drive. So in that moment I had to learn how to be a mom. I'd never been a mom. It was like add water, instant family. Nothing, none, no experience. I barely could hold a baby. Ask my mom. When I held a baby one time, I was like, what do I do? I don't want to break its neck. And they're like, it's fine, it's 1. So I had to learn really quickly how to be a mom. And during that time, there were so many moments. My life would not be the same. I would not be here. I don't think I would be as close with Kelsey. I don't think I would be as close with Barb if I hadn't gotten these kids. Like, this was life-changing. They changed my life. They'll know that later. Right now, they don't care. So, but I remember the first time that Trevor had to go over for a training that was longer than a week. It was like a 30-day training, maybe 60-day training because he's in the military. And I was alone with these children for the first time since we got them, and I was like, what the fuck? And I was standing in the kitchen at the island. When you walk into our house, we have a decent-sized kitchen, and there's this island, which is where we all like congregate when we come to our house. Which it's like, you can fit 2 bar stools there, so I don't know why we congregate there, but we do. And I was standing there, and I was looking at my phone. The kids were safe, probably, somewhere. I was looking at my phone, scrolling on Facebook, and I just started crying because I saw the friends that I had before I had kids on Facebook together at a party that I was not invited to. And I had been invited to every single party for multiple years before that. And so I just started sobbing because I had to realize, and at that moment I was like, I need to mourn the loss of who I was before I had children. And I had to realize that I didn't have the village I thought that I did. Okay, so why am I up here telling you all this? I gave you that and I just like moved on. Let's zoom right past that. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because all those pieces helped me to learn to unshrink. All those pieces started the shrinking process, and then I had to work through them. And last night I introduced the power framework to you guys, and those of you that were here last year, I also introduced it to you then, so you had like a secret cheat code for that. But the power framework is based on these experiences. Every single thing that I did goes into that framework. It didn't come from nowhere. So I want to go into this a little deeper because I want you to be able to see how I did that. And I want you to be able to use it in your own life so you can unshrink a little bit faster than I did. That's my hope for you. So prioritizing yourself, this relates to the village that I thought I had but I didn't. And so I had to prioritize time for myself and building and strengthening that village on my own and with intention. Because they say it takes a village to raise a child, but the truth is it takes a village to support a mother. And I needed to build that support and I needed to prioritize it. And so what I did was I started a Tuesday night wing night. I got a babysitter every other Tuesday, and no matter what, I was either going to spend time with myself or spend time with my friends. That was what I was going to do. This was during my husband's deployment, so he's gone for 9 months. I had to find a babysitter. If he was home, he would have watched our own children. He's not a babysitter. He watches his own children. So that's what I did for myself. And some of you were invited to those wing nights, so yeah. A few of you got to enjoy that strengthening with me. And I also wanted to show you the pictures of the boys because I found all of them. So this was 2023. Aren't they so cute? Okay. And then 2024, Trevor was deployed. So this was no Trevor. I didn't divorce him. He's still here. That was 2024. And then July 2025, we became the Rockets. That's our family photos, literally their faces. That's pretty much all they are all the time. Levi looks confused, Colin's cheesing it, and Luke is like, I don't do anything you tell me to do. So that's my family. And Trevor and I pretending that everything was okay. We're not trying to run into the middle of the road. It's fine, everything's fine. So own your voice. This was the middle school situation. I was too weird, too emo, too anime, whatever. I decided I don't care, and that takes a lot of time and guts. You don't just like all of a sudden think that you don't care. But I decided to embrace my hobbies. Oh, I also forgot, who in here is looking for a village? Who wants to create their own village for themselves? Cool, find each other. You're welcome.
She's so sweet.
I did it for you. Okay, back to middle school. I decided I don't care, and guess what I did? This year, I threw myself a K-pop Demon Hunter's birthday party. I'm a grown-up, and I like anime. Here's my friends that came to my birthday party. Okay. Then, when it comes to walk away from toxicity. This relates to my job, my dream job that I had. I did end up leaving. It took me 2.5, 3 years to leave. I lost track. The final straw was during the annual review when they told me I didn't know what I was doing in my job and I only was worried about myself. I only looked out for myself or something along those lines. When I sent them weekly lists via email of what I was doing and what was in the pipeline, I didn't understand. So I was like, okay, bye. I already had a trip planned to go visit my husband who was in Korea at the time, South Korea. We don't go to North Korea in case anyone's confused. So South Korea, he was there. I already had a week planned there. I already had approved vacation. I went to HR, went to the union. I was like, first I went to the union and was like, can I do anything? And they were like, sort of. And I was like, never mind. And then I went to the HR and I was like, if I put a 1 week notice in, are you gonna be fine with that? And she was like, yeah. And so I said, okay, bye. And I wrote my letter and I was like, handed it in, I sent it in an email. My boss didn't even say bye to me on my last day. Wow. Yeah, crazy. So I left that job. And now what happens for me is it took me 3 years to leave that. Now it takes me a little bit less. When I see those patterns, I see those signs, it takes me a little bit less. I'm not perfect. I still like it when people like me. Don't get me wrong. I don't need you to like me, but I like it when you like me. But my next job that I had while I was trying to build my business, I left after 6 months rather than 3 years because the signs were there again. And I just was no longer gonna allow that in my life. So who here is ready to leave some toxic stuff? Walk away from stuff. Yes, do it. Yes, queen. Okay. This is where I was gonna put some pictures of my time in Korea and I didn't have any. So I left it. Yes. When I was in North Korea. That's why I didn't have any pictures. They don't let you use cameras there. Okay, embrace congruence. This was my pink hair. This was me having pink hair, and I kept my pink hair, and now I don't. This is my branding board now. This is me. This is me. And I have a picture of it all set up at the Intentional Feminine that I went to with Tia and Barb. Isn't it so bright? Oh my gosh.
That was fun setting it up though.
Yeah. Fun is a lie. It was very easy to find. I was the brightest one there. And the tallest too, I think. Okay. And then reclaiming your narrative. So this one is the breast reduction. I decided at 22 not to get it. And then at 28, I did. I finally decided, and it was the best thing I've ever done for my body. The best thing I've ever done. Best decision I've ever made. And you're gonna look at my boobs. There you go. I was like, should I put this? Should I do this? Yeah, have at it. They're clothed, it's fine. Okay. So they told me to think outside the box, but I was never in a box, I was in a cage. Bars welded from words, from lies, from fears, from traditions that were passed down as truths. A cage of words that built these bars. You only think about yourself. You're selfish, you're too intimidating, you're too opinionated, you're too much. Words that built bricks, stacked, rising around me, until I could not figure out where they ended and I began. And it wasn't just the words, it was the fears. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being good enough. Fears that didn't just stop me, they held me hostage. And then the lies. Be humble, not confident. Be small, not loud. Don't take up space. Apologize for your opinions. Lies that were handed to me, but were wrapped in shame. And then there was the traditions. She's worth less than him. It's her fault for wearing that. She needs to be beautiful to matter. The traditions that were passed down as thinly disguised truths that were really control, passed from generation to generation. But not anymore. Not anymore. Not anymore. We are breaking the cage. We are breaking the cage. Brick by word, lie by fear, silence by strength. We will take up space. We will speak, we will lead, we will fail, but we will succeed, and we will be. And we will never, never apologize for being ourselves.